All right, today we're jumping into a really powerful one. John Galsworthy's landmark 1910 play, Justice. And what's so incredible about this story is that it basically put the entire legal system on trial.
Okay, so let's start with this quote because it really is the whole play in a nutshell. Justice is a machine. That's the core idea right there. We're about to follow a young man who gets caught in the gears of this cold, unfeeling machine. And once it starts rolling, well, there's just no stopping it.
So, where does it all begin? We're in a solicitor's office in London, and we meet our two main characters, a young clerk named William Falder and Ruth Honeywell, a married woman who is trapped in a really awful, violent relationship.
So Ruth shows up at Falder's office, and she is absolutely terrified. She's just escaped her husband, who literally tried to kill her. See, she and Falder are in love, and they've got this plan, this desperate plan to run away together and start over somewhere else. But there's one huge problem. They're broke. No money at all.
And this is where they spiral out of control so fast it's terrifying. Falder's colleague gives him a company check for £9 to go cash. Simple enough, right? But Falder he's a wreck. He's completely beside himself worrying about Ruth. And in what he later calls a minute of madness, he sees that check and makes a decision. And this is the key, you guys. One single moment of absolute panic is about to trigger a crime that will change his life forever.
So what does he do? It's almost clever, in a tragic sort of way. He takes the check for £9, adds a T and a Y to the word 9, and a 0 to the number. Boom! Just like that. £9 becomes £90. It's not a fortune, but it's just enough for him and Ruth to get away.
Now at first, his bosses, the partners at the firm, they actually suspect someone else, another clerk who just took off for Australia. So for a second you think, maybe he'll get away with it. But no, the evidence piles up way too fast. And the real nail in the coffin? He changed the counterfoil in the checkbook a few days later to try and cover his tracks. That's what really seals his fate. He's cornered and he just confesses. Okay, so now we're in the courtroom, and this is where the play really starts to dig deep. I mean, sure, it's a trial about one man's freedom, but it's so much more than that. It becomes this battleground between two totally different ideas of what justice even is. Is it this rigid set of rules, or should it have room for, human desperation?
So on one side, you have his defense lawyer, Hector Frome. And his argument is powerful. He's saying, look, this wasn't some cold, calculated crime. This was a good man who just snapped. He argues Falder was driven temporarily insane by pure terror for the woman he loved. He saw her suffering and he just lost his mind for a moment.
But then the prosecution comes in and basically says, hold on a second. They strip away all that emotion and paint a much colder picture. They say, forget the romantic drama. This is just a plain, ordinary forgery. They argue that this whole temporary insanity thing is just a clever legal trick, a play for sympathy.
And then you have the judge. And his viewpoint? Wow. He is basically the human embodiment of that machine we talked about. For him, there's no room for feelings, no room for messy human details. He sees the law as this majestic edifice, a perfect building. His job isn't to ask why something happened, it's just to administer the rules, period.
So who does the jury side with? The prosecution. And with that one single word, guilty, the machine lurches forward, totally indifferent to the person it's about to run over.
So what happens now? Falder's conviction doesn't send him down a path to reform. Oh no, it sends him to a place that seems like it was literally designed to break a person's spirit. The prison.
He gets 3 years. 3 years of penal servitude. I mean, just think about that. 3 years for a crime that was born out of a few seconds of absolute panic. The punishment just seems so huge compared to the crime.
And the first part of his sentence is something called separate confinement. Now, this is really the heart of what Galsworthy was protesting against. This play was a direct shot at this practice because it was known to cause horrible psychological damage. And it worked. I mean, this play had such a massive impact that it actually helped influence real-world prison reforms, pushed by none other than Winston Churchill, who was the Home Secretary at the time. Pretty amazing, right?
So what is separate confinement? It's silence. Absolute crushing silence. Your entire world shrinks to just 4 white walls. Falder is left completely alone. Can't see the sky, can't speak to anyone. Just him and his thoughts.
And what happens when you're left like that? Your mind just turns on itself. It starts to spiral. He even tells one of the few people he gets to see, "Sometimes I could beat my head against the wall." It's this feeling of all his worst thoughts just getting bigger and bigger in the quiet and the dark.
And you get this heartbreaking sense of how desperate they are for any stimulation. Another prisoner talks about how, even though you can't speak in the workshops, he just has a great conversation inside his own head. Can you imagine? That's how badly they need contact.
This all builds to one of the most famous scenes in all of 20th century drama. A sound starts, a banging. It's a wave of desperate, frantic communication spreading from cell to cell as prisoners just start hammering on their doors. And Falder, who has been completely broken by the isolation, he just loses it. He joins in, hysterically throwing himself against his own door.
Okay, fast forward 2 years. Falder gets out on parole. He's free, right? He walks out of the prison gates. But he's about to find out that the real sentence, in some ways, is just beginning.
And this is the play's final, brutal gut punch. The prison sentence itself is over, but it's left him with this permanent brand. He's a criminal, an ex-con, for life. He manages to find a job, but the second they find out about his record, fired, just like that. Society won't let him back in.
And Ruth, who's had her own terrible struggles while he's been away, she sees what it's done to him. It's not just emotional, it's physical. He's skin and bone. You see, the system didn't reform him. It didn't fix him. It chewed him up and spit him out, leaving nothing but a hollowed-out shell of a man.
So the play doesn't really give us any easy answers. And that's the point. It leaves us with this huge, haunting question. When that machine of justice is finally done with someone, what's actually left of the person? Is a system that completely destroys a human being in the name of the law, is that really justice at all? It was a powerful question back in 1910, and you know what? It's one we are absolutely still asking ourselves today.